Okay, about 5 more seconds. And you are live.
All right, everyone. Good afternoon. It is another Tuesday, so that means it is another tea episode. My name is Angela. I am part of the Community Education Department. And today I have two special guests, and I would like them to first introduce themselves, and then we will get started. So if you're watching, please share this video, send it to your friends, send it to your coworkers, but I think it's important you send it to your managers as well, because this episode is for them, as well as get your tea, even put in the description box what kind of tea you're drinking today, and let's have a great episode. So, who's going first to introduce themselves?
Well, I can
This
go.
is so funny.
Rafael Capos, and I am the counseling program manager at South Suburban Family Shelter.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say I've been with the agency 27 years.
Wow. I'm Chris Scott, and I am the Development and Communications Director, and I've been here, I think it's been 18 months now.
Oh, this is awesome. So we have the scope of just both sides to everything, which is be really, really important. So first, I just want to thank you all for being on here. It's so funny behind the scenes talking with our interviewees because we're all having a jitter, nervous, but this is going to be a great episode. So essentially, for this episode, I really wanted to spotlight the managers simply because they are really the key to the puzzle, especially with the teams. They are the ones that are sitting there watching us cry when we're stressed. They're answering our questions. They're mentoring us. They are literally doing everything as well as doing their job as well. And during the pandemic alone, I'm sure a lot of the managers are ready to tell their stories and tell us how this process has been. So this is why I say send it to your managers, because they might need to read this and listen to this, and they might cry and then be very rewarded. So I do want to get started by first just asking you all, this is so off the topic, they're going to be so mad at me, right? But I just first want to ask you all, what led you to South Suburban Family Shelter? And when did you know that being the manager for this team, this is my passion, this is what I do? Chris, you go.
You want me to remember back 20? Well, yeah. I had a friend who was working at South Suburban Family Shelter when I was looking for my first job. And I was looking for something part-time because I had little children at the time. And she said, "Oh, I love working at South Suburban Family Shelter. You need to apply there." And so that's how I got, to the agency. I always had a passion for women's issues, women's studies when I was in college. And so, although we know domestic violence affects, all genders, it was just still something that I decided that it was my calling, I guess. I just had to do it.
Awesome. So did you major or minor in women's studies in college?
I have a master's degree in social work, and I minored in sociology, but I did do a lot of, classes in women's studies.
Same. Okay, awesome. Okay, Chris, what about you?
What led me here, I had been with a previous nonprofit organizations for a long time, about 16 years. But when I decided that I wanted to transition, I had my list of things that I wanted. I really wanted to stop going downtown, but I also wanted to work for an organization that, pulled at my heart. Because being in fundraising, you have to be able to convey the mission and the vision to donors and to foundations and things like that. And I remember South Suburban Family Shelter from years ago. My mom was a member of a local church in Chicago Heights. And I remember one day she said, "I need to use your car to drop off some things." And I'm like, what, but it was her women's ministry had participated in Adopt a Family. And so they had adopted families, because when I got to the church, they were putting bicycles in my car and all kind of other wrapped gifts and things like that. And I was like, where are we going? So on the way over, she told me what South Suburban Family Shelter was and all of that. And then most recently, maybe in the last 3 years, a very dear friend of mine had shared with me how South Suburban Family Shelter had helped her and her family through a crisis that she was going with. So when I saw the advertisement for the job, I was like, okay, this is it, because there's so many connections, 6 degrees of separation, you know what I mean? I was like, this is for me. So I was really excited to be offered the position. So yeah, that's what got me here.
Awesome. Thank you. I know they're looking like this was not a part of the plan. It's always extra tea in there. That's all. So my first question to you all, can you all recall the thoughts, the feelings that you all had when you first heard that South Suburban Family Shelter was falling in line with the COVID protocols? When we transitioned home for that long period of time, like, were you nervous? Whether you were nervous professionally on how do I conduct this team, maybe personally thinking of all the other things that you had to deal with. What were the thoughts and the feelings you all had?
Wow. I can go if you want, Raphael. I remember I started here January 21st of 2020. And the shelter in place order was issued, I believe, around it was in March, yes.
March 21st.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, wait a minute. I've only managed a team in person, and it was just, I was really nervous because, of course, anytime you start a new job, there's that onboarding, and Jennifer and the rest of the leadership team did the best that they could to onboard me. But I also felt relieved in a sense that we did have the shelter in place, because I still came to work. There was no one here in the office. So it was I felt like I was at the library sometimes, because I was able to really read history, really go through the donor list and things like that. And then I did get nervous because it was like, okay, how do you, as a new manager, create team within your team when your team is home? So yeah, that was, I remember just really being nervous, and I was like, okay, this is something new. You asked for it, Chris, so jump in.
Absolutely. What about you, Raphael?
Well, I remember in February of 2020 is when we really started hearing about COVID and about the symptoms of COVID. And I even had a couple staff members that had been sick. And so, I started, thinking about these things and these, what ifs, and started asking my supervisor some questions about, well, what if this happens? What should we do? And so the wheels were already turning. Then I had a trip planned in mid-March to visit my daughter in Florida, who had just moved there, and went back and forth all the way up until the day I was leaving as to whether or not I was going to go, because they were talking about there might be a stay-at-home order. And I was like, oh, do I leave work at this time and deal with the personal stuff, or, what do I do? Decided to go ahead and go. And then, of course, like the second day I was there is when things really started, escalating. And it turned into basically I was working from Florida. And I was just like, am I really doing this? So, corresponding with administration and trying to figure out like, what kind of protocols are we going to set? So I was just like, it was definitely very nerve-wracking, because I felt like, how am I doing this from so far away? And, it was just like emailing everybody and contacting all my staff and, making sure everybody was on the same page and anticipating that when I got back, there's going to be a stay-at-home order. And sure enough, 2 days after I arrived home, which I think my flight got canceled and I had to find another flight, but I did get home, and 2 days later is when the stay-at-home order started.
Wow. So I know that was just a lot in general. And it's so interesting because both of your journeys were different, but you all were both kind of feeling the same feelings. You know, you're new to the agency, so you're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening? And then you're like, oh man, okay, so I kind of been ahead of this, but I didn't expect this, because it was one of those things where it's like, oh, we're gonna work from home for a little bit. Okay, just a little bit longer. Okay, yeah, now we're permanently working from home. And I think it was very surprising and scary, because I'm sure you all both had to prepare. How do your team work from home? What are the things we need to conduct to continue services for our clients or continue these relationships with the community? And all of that was kind of at a standstill. Wow. Okay, so I know that the pandemic we can say we all have collective trauma with the pandemic. It has affected us really in different ways, but we all kind of experienced the same thing. What was the most challenging thing you had to encounter, or the most challenging thing you just had to deal with? Because you all wear a lot of hats, whether you're a mom, a wife, a sister, a daughter. How was all of this playing a part during this pandemic?
Well, there were so many challenges. I mean, this segment would have to be like hours long to get into all of them. But, you know, as far as my work hat and professionally, our agency, we didn't work from home. We didn't have telehealth services. So when we first got that stay-at-home order, it was, you know, as a team, us all trying to figure out how are we going to continue to serve our clients, you know, and keep everybody safe and do that from home when we've never done that before. We have no protocol. We have no procedures to follow. So it was very, you know, challenging being able to, set that all up. And it was like every day was something new and a new challenge or, you know, a new obstacle. We didn't have, the computer equipment that we needed. There was, confidentiality issues. We had staff, counselors that, needed to do their own remote learning and deal with their own childcare situation and at-home life when, they're also trying to still serve their clients. So professionally, it was very challenging. Personally, same, just like everybody else. I mean, I had my own health issues and, that concerned me about, trying to stay safe and not catch COVID. Family issues, worried about adult children, worried about my parents, my siblings, my friends. I think the hardest thing personally was not being able to see family members for so long. And then my daughter having just moved to Florida, I was worried about her, of course, but, really it was just, I feel like I just threw myself into work and dealt with each of those challenges. And that's actually what probably helped me to cope with it. Like I had some kind of control, over, working the system out and being able to continue to serve our clients.
What about you?
Yeah. For me, it was sort of on the same lines as Raphael, how is the team, how are we going to be able to continue to do our work from home, but also from a development standpoint, you're hearing on the news, all of these industries that have been affected because of the pandemic. People are losing their jobs, plants and, businesses are closing. And how is it that we as a department is going to successfully fundraise? That's insensitive, the economy is suffering, but at the same time, this organization has a budget that we have to meet to continue to provide the services to our clients. And also on the communication side, how do we as a department successfully relay to our constituents, to our donors that, hey, we're doing the best that we can to still provide these much needed services. We need your help if you can. We were very thoughtful about that, because again, I'm new. I'm coming in as the development director, and here it is. Who would have thought that, your first year, there's a pandemic and the economy is just in the tank. But the other thing on a personal level, like Raphael, it was concerned about my family. I did live alone, but the isolation, and worrying about my mom and my kids one is in another city and things like that. And I had to make my mind up that I was going to be intentional about checking in, because under normal circumstances, when you get off work, you don't want to be on the phone with anyone. But, I had to be intentional about reaching out for my own mental health, but also checking on my family members. So my team to make sure that we stay connected. I remember when we were intentional about having staff meetings. So to make it kind of fun and lighthearted, we would have different themes, so, okay, this time we're going to all show up on camera with a red lip, or we would come in costume with different hats on and things like that. And I love that one because Emily on our team, she showed up with a Viking hat and we were all like, oh no, you won.
It's over. It's fine.
Yeah. So just trying different things to keep our spirits up, to keep ourselves encouraged, because I know, the team had different things going on at home, e-learning, also caring about their family. So we just really had to try to be intentional.
I can only imagine, because you are still human. So it's like, I'm dealing with my professional, my personal, but as a manager, I have to make sure my team is okay too. And whatever that means, of having the supervisions and the meetings with them and making sure that they're okay. But I am interested to know, so Raphael, when we first had the stay-at-home order, did you see client services rise or drop significantly?
I would say drop, but I don't know if I'd say significantly. Basically, what happened was that each of the counselors were in contact with each of their current clients and devised a plan. And so that was very individual, where, some of them, their abusive partners were not in the home, so they could carry on and have weekly sessions. Other ones, if their abusive partner was in the home, then that's going to change things, right? And same with if there's children in the household, can they have a confidential, private conversation on the phone with their counselor? So it was a very individualized type of plan with each of our current clients. We never, stopped taking on new clients. We would sort of do like a triage kind of thing. And we would, assess the client over the phone, sort of determine what needs to be done at that particular time, what safety issues need to be addressed, and then sort of take it from there. So some clients were, in contact with counselors on a week-to-week basis. Some said, check in on me in 2 weeks. It just, it just developed. But we did see definitely a decline in new clients calling and wanting services for many reasons. And then as time went on, then that, that did pick up a little bit more.
Wow, yeah. And that's interesting, because I know for us, it's like, okay, these kids are at home. If we're talking about family violence, what if it's happening in the household? Is it safe to even give these presentations? So I can only imagine the thoughts you all had and the worriedness you had when it came to clients you all worked with, because the stay-at-home order really made things much more lethal. as well. So I can only imagine, this is still a passion of helping other people. So of course you're at home wondering like, oh man, I know this client situation. I wonder if he or she is doing okay. And then I have this individual that has these kids. So I can only imagine the worriness.
I mean, luckily, my staff are so dedicated, and they care so much about their clients that they just did whatever they could to make it work. And if that meant just a check-in here or there, or figuring out when it was a safe time to call, or to, sneak outside and make a call or something, and we just had to really think outside the box and be creative to remain in contact with all of our clients. And, it's really nice to be able to say we really maintained all of our clients. We didn't lose too many clients.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That just shows as well just the work ethic of your team and you as well as being the manager of the team. Because I remember knowing, counseling didn't stop. Like they still have to give these services. And that I know that was very a rewarding yet stressful time for you all, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, I was just thinking about it, and we were talking about challenges. One of my biggest challenges was I set no boundaries during that stay-at-home order when it came to being a manager. Like, I was available, anytime, any day, basically like on call, and probably worked harder than I ever have as a manager. Now, I've only been a manager for going on about 4 years. I was a counselor myself for all the other years that I've been with the agency. So, management in itself was new to me when we were going into this pandemic. So it was a real challenge.
Wow, yeah. And then your managing looked totally different at a point in time
right.
as well. So Chris, as far as networking and building these relationships and just everything that you and your team does, when the stay-at-home order first happened, did you see an increase of calls asking, hey, what do you all need? What do the clients need? Or was it more so, kind of slow moving as everyone kind of figured out their own situation?
Actually, we did get a lot of calls of what the clients need. We got a lot of donations, and I really believe what helped that, when the governor would do his updates every week, he actually was intentional about saying, we need to think about domestic violence victims, because of course, with the shelter in place order, people are sheltering with their abuser. And so we saw where people were just dropping, envelopes by the office, or they did things online, so that was really, really helpful. And we were really surprised and grateful, and it continues.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I know during that time it's just so difficult for everyone. So that's amazing. And again, that just really showcased how South Suburban Family Shelter is looked at and viewed and in the community. And so that's really, really amazing. Okay, so I know that supervisors and managers, you have a very critical role in providing care, compassion, and additional psychological help when needed by your staff members, especially when they're under stress, especially during the pandemic. I'm sure you could be having a meeting with somebody and you're just like, wait, you're crying. What's wrong? Let's talk about this. So do you feel that the pandemic has made you better professionally? Do you think that it made your job harder, or you look at it as if, hey, if I made it through a year of a stay-at-home order of managing a team, I could do anything? What was your thought process after that?
Yes, to all of the above.
Yes.
I mean, okay, what
are some skills that you may have gained even during this, wow, I didn't know I was capable of doing this thing, and this skill really showcased throughout the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, I'm a planner. I'm an organizer. So this whole pandemic has messed me up.
You had to really learn how to just go with the flow, or you're going to lose your mind.
Exactly. We don't have all the answers. We are just going to wing it and, do the best that we can. And just adjust as needed. If something doesn't work, we try something different. So it's trial and error. So yeah, but as far as, my staff goes, I mean, we're talking about counselors who are so used to working with clients and helping them through their trauma. And this was quite different because we were all going through a trauma and, a lot of things personally. And yes, the clients were also going through that same trauma on top of other trauma. So it definitely was difficult. And, but yeah, I think I just had to learn to just say, it's okay. You don't have all the answers. You can't plan anything because as soon as you plan something and you set protocol and procedures, something changes and you have to change everything. So it was just really developing those skills and just, a lot of self-talk, like, it's okay. Just go with it and figure it out. And I think that's what we did. We just transitioned along the way and figured it
Yeah, I
out.
could definitely agree. I could definitely contest to that. It's just like, I have a thing of wanting to control and organize and know what's happening next. And like you said, during this pandemic, you had no control. And I think that's also as a team, now it's just like, oh, that didn't happen. Okay, well, let's see what's next. Oh, the school is not going back yet. Okay. Oh, we don't know COVID protocols. Okay, well, let's go back to the drawing boards.
Yeah, and being sympathetic and to everything that the staff were going through, their own health and family health and family members passing away and just everything that they were going through as well, and then just finding that balance between that and keeping the program running.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what about you, Chris?
I think it's the same thing what Raphael talked about, just having empathy and sympathy for what everyone on the team was going through. I remember there were times where we would, even in our individual supervisor meetings, I gave space for us not to talk about work, provided space for if there was something that, a team member was going through, or if we just wanted to chit chat. A lot of times that's a good stress reliever, not to go just dive right in with the activities of the day. And I think one skill that my team, they'll probably comment, I think I developed a better listening skill, because now I'm listening to see, are you okay? You know what I mean? And so that was, I think for all of us was really important that we listened to each other, that we pitched in, hey, you know what, today's not a good day. I may need to sign off. And that was okay. We did a lot of things in the teams chat, whether it be an encouraging word or a meme that we found. We used emojis a lot, which, helped with the day, but just providing space to say, I am not okay. And I think we have continued to incorporate that even in our staff meetings. We have a line, on the agenda that says, hey, are there any celebrations? And sometimes those celebrations would be, took a shower today, got all kids online for school, things like that. So just providing space for that to help us, make it through this with whatever we were going through, whether it would be on the job or even at home.
Yeah, I definitely think through this whole process, a lot of the professionals was able to see each other as just being human. Remembering being in meetings and I'm getting hit upside the head with toys by my son. I'm just like, I'm sorry, he's home, but everybody understood. Everybody really was very much more softer and softer with their tone, the things that they said, because like I said, we all were going through a collective trauma. So I definitely can understand that. And I do see that has continued through the meetings. Hey, and you have anything good, anything bad you want to talk about, just continuing to leave that space open, because honestly, it's still a lot of question marks considering the other variants that's coming out and what's
Mhm.
next. And now we're going into the fall. And then, we just had the Lollapalooza going on. So we're just over here just waiting, just seeing what's next. So my question to you is, do you have any advice for other managers during this time, or even advice for individuals that are new at managing? Is there any advice, any encouraging words that can help them be of help to their team?
I think some advice that I took myself, I did a lot of reading on how I can be a better manager, especially where support was concerned. Because you may think that you're sticking to an agenda, what we have to do as far as, our fundraising plan for the year and things like that, but also think about other things that you can do to provide support to your team, because as long as you want your team to be healthy, because you can't be successful if you don't have a healthy team, so I would read different things, anything that our executive director would send over. She was real good about that, providing us with information. And I would especially advise that for new managers, because we're all in nonprofits, so sometimes a manager, you're just thrown in there and like, okay, do a good job.
Right.
You're like, what does that mean? But it's nonprofit. I mean, a lot of times we don't have money for specialized training and things like that. So it's just seeking out different information. Sometimes I found on Google where some managers, have been hey, this did not work for me, so take this advice.
Okay.
Things like that. Those are good things to just seek out that information. But also, more importantly, be transparent with your team. Even if you're not, you want to make sure they're okay, but if you're not in a good space, say that. Because when you're under a lot of stress, things can be misconstrued, or you might make someone else feel bad, but I think as a manager, we can still be professional, but also be transparent to say, yeah, I'm not okay either. So let's try to see what we can do together to get through this.
Absolutely.
Right. And to add to that, I mean, managers, we don't have all the answers, and it's okay to acknowledge that and say, I don't know, I'll do my best to find out, or, let's brainstorm and try to figure it out. But we don't have all the answers. So my advice would be, definitely to ask for suggestions and ideas and help from many different people, resources, reading, asking your team, what do you think will work and not work, and getting, their opinions, and then incorporating all that, together and figuring out what your plan is. And then as a manager too, just making sure you have your own support system, your own outlets and means of self-care. But I think that, or I am thankful that my supervisor and everyone, all of admin, have been very supportive through all of this and flexible. And I think it has made us all more connected and a better team as a whole at South Suburban Family Shelter. And so, I guess that would be my advice. Just, continue to communicate with one another, support one another, and you'll get through it.
Yeah, both. That's really good advice. I definitely think that during this time, we all gotten closer, being excited when we were having an all staff meeting. It's like, oh, let me see your dog. Yeah, so I definitely agree. So now we're going to go to Zach. Zach, hi. Are there any questions in the comment box?
Hey, we do not have any questions. We still got some people watching, so maybe they'll have one in a minute or so.
If you do have any questions, any concerns, any comments, please comment that below. Even if the video ends, we will get that answered for you. And I do really want to thank you both so much for coming on here and speaking. I just really felt like it was important to get the manager standpoint, because you all do a lot in making sure these teams are successful and the services are successful. So I just really want to thank you all so much. You all are just amazing, and you all do such a great job, even on the days where you think, oh Lord, what am I doing? You're doing everything, and we appreciate you so much. And again, if you have any questions, any concerns, please write that in the box. And if there is nothing else that we have today, then I want to thank you all for joining again on What's the Tea. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye.
Bye.